Alright class, today we're going to be finishing up our Ashley Bryan characters. We read the book last week. We talked about his style, how he used lots of colors and organic shapes and lines. So we're going to finish up our characters. We're going to add details in them for our face, the hair or a headpiece, and then we're going to add a background. Then we are going to be painting them. So I'm going to finish my eyes. So he used very simple shapes for his face. For a nose, sometimes he did a little mark like this, and the mouth on his characters were always open. You can color them in. I would suggest coloring in the eyes and the mouth with oil pastel instead of painting them. That way they stand out better. And then the hair or the headpiece, whatever you'd like to do, you can use whatever color. Remember, he used lots of bright colors, so you're not trying to make it look realistic. So I could do kind of a wavy hair on this person. Maybe I could add lines connecting it, but I'm leaving some space in between. And then my person over here, I'm trying to use a different color each time. So I'm going to make circles for the eyes. My nose, like over here, so I just made a shape, and I'm going to fill it in, and then a mouth. So I'm going to fill in those things.
Red.
I'm going to do some blue. Filling in the nose.
Do the nose red.
So now I'm going to be adding a headpiece on this person. So with the headpiece, I'm just kind of making almost like a halo at the top, and then I'm adding patterns in it. So I could do a V in this one. I didn't do this in the other ones. I could color them in if I wanted. Now, my people are all done. I love how my back row is listening so quietly. Front row, we need to get it together, okay? Let's make sure we're quiet and listening and focused. So now my people are done. I need to add a background. So he had a few patterns in the background. You could add a sun if you'd like, but he had a lot of lines in the background. So you want thick, bold lines. So I'm going over this kind of multiple times. I'm going to use some bright colors and lines connecting all the way to the edge of my paper. I don't want to see any white space inside of those lines. Okay. So I'm kind of making like a sun with sun rays. I could add a sky if I wanted, with different lines for the clouds. I might add a line for a hill. I'm going to use brown. And so like below this is the land, so I might add some lines. We're not adding things that make sense, if that makes sense. We're adding abstract lines. So abstract shapes that are not specifically one thing. So like I just did a zigzag line down here just to add a little pattern and a little color. And in my sky, I also did that as well. Now when you paint them, you are going to be using temper cakes. So we're going to wet them first. So you're going to dip your brush in the water. Remember, you're not going to mix colors. On the palette, you're going to, if you need to, you can mix it on your paper, but try not to mix colors. You shouldn't need to anyway. Colors he used a lot were reds, oranges, browns, yellows. So I'm going over this, I'm going back and forth, wiggling my brush about 10 times to get the color on. And then I'm going to paint. So I'm going to choose one side of my paper. If you're left-handed like me, I would recommend starting on the right side of your paper to paint. If you're right-handed, you would start on the left side. That way you're not smearing anything or getting anything wet. So I'm going to paint some details in my headdress. I'm not dipping my brush back in the paint either, so look at how much paint that my brush is holding. I didn't dip it at all in the paint, and I painted all those red. I'm also going to add some more red in my clothing as well. So I'm just going to continue painting with red and adding red details.
This one's fun. This is a fun part.
So all I'm doing is just adding that color and spreading it throughout my person. I'm going to do another color now. I'm going to use, let's see, blue.
I think you should do yellow.
So I'm wiggling my brush back and forth. If your temper cake's broken, just wiggle it back and forth. If it's not broken, you're going to swirl in a circle. So now I'm going to paint some blue. I'm going to add blue in the sky behind it. And it's okay to paint up to the line. Try not to wiggle your brush too much across the oil pastel, because it can start to rub into your brush. You can pat it on like that. So I'm spreading that blue around. I'm spreading that blue around. And I'm trying to color in all these spaces. So be very careful when you're painting. Try to use the details that you drew. Use them to your advantage and paint inside of them to make them lots of cool colors. So I'm kind of spreading that around. See how that piece of red kind of got on in my space? That's because I was painting over top of the line and going back and forth. So I'm spreading that blue paint over, and now I'm going to continue painting. So we're going to have one more day to work on this. This is not your last day to paint this. This should take you a good amount of time. And make sure you're not painting like one person, one color. See how I did lots of different colors in this person? Or lots of different spaces. I'm going to do lots of different colors too. So with yellow, you're going to swirl it 10 times. So I'm going in a circle to get the paint on my brush. I'm also not painting wet areas next to wet areas. I waited for this to dry some before I paint it, but I'm going to add some yellow in this person as well. And I think I'm going to add yellow right here. And then I think I'm going to add some. We also have another palette. We have two palettes. I think I'm going to add some turquoise. Swirling 10 times. I'm going to add some turquoise in the spaces of my headdress.
That's nice, good.
And then I'm going to put it in. But you have to be very careful when you're painting next to something that's wet. So if you look right here, my blue went into the yellow, and because they're both wet, the colors were mixing. Same thing with my face. So don't do that. This is something you don't want to do. If that happens, you can try to absorb that with your brush. So I just kind of sweeped it around with a dry brush. Your brush needs to be dry to do this. So kind of absorb that color. All right.